So I'm Dr. Jay Middleton. I'm a staff psychologist at Counseling Services. You know me. I've been in class all week and it's been thrilling working with Wendy. But I'm like a goldfish with names. I have a terrible memory. So if you state your name again, please. Charles. That rings a bell. And what business major? Okay. And what year are you? Junior. And your name, sir?
Travis.
Okay. And year and major?
Junior in biosystems engineering.
Okay. Very cool. So what brings you to the presentation today?
I feel like I could be more mindful.
Okay.
Also, my professors.
So you are coming because you want to be more mindful and your professors are offering extra credit. Okay. Does that mean I need to sign anything out of curiosity? Okay, I don't need to sign anything. And so Charles, what brings you here today? Okay, so part of assignment and learn something new. Very cool. And I'm down. Hey, I get if people are here for extra credit. I hear if they're like someone they're romantically interested in, talks them into coming in. I'm in. Like whatever brings people here, I'm cool with. So mindfulness. And this is a subject I'm pretty familiar with. And the fun thing about mindfulness is, I'm going to talk a little bit about it today. Obviously, I have PowerPoint slides, but a lot of it has to be done or practiced. And so I would probably say half of today, maybe not half, but I have 35, 40, 45 minutes, probably 15 or 20 minutes of this is going to be us practicing mindfulness in some sort of way or another. So you ever been in a conversation and the other person isn't paying attention, like they're nodding their head and like they can hear you but they're not really listening to you? Yeah. Have you ever done that to someone else? Yeah, I do that. Like I'm a therapist and I try very, very hard in therapy to like pay attention to what the person in front of me is saying. But I'd be a liar to say I never tuned out when someone was talking. We've all been on both ends of this. Have you ever driven so much from point A to point B, like job to home to work, that one morning or one afternoon you get in your car and you start at point A and you get to point B and you don't even remember the drive? Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else. Have you ever sat down with like a bag of chips and then before you realize it, you've eaten half a bag of chips and don't remember like really tasting much of anything? Yeah. In all of those cases, what is going on is the opposite of mindfulness. Because mindfulness, if you want a short definition, mindfulness is just being aware in the present moment. And in all those cases, the tuning out, the getting in the car and mentally spacing out while you're driving, eating, half a bag of chips without paying attention, all of that is the opposite of mindfulness. You're not in the present moment. You're mentally somewhere else. Yeah, have you ever had a thought or feeling that was upsetting and you tried to get rid of it? Tried to push it away? Like, I know I've worried so much, I've told myself not to worry anymore. How's that worked out for anyone in here? Yeah. Right, and that's a very different strategy than telling, like, the first, yes, I've tried pushing a thought away, and that didn't sound very successful. So the other strategy you tried was pushing or keeping your mind busy on something else. And that's probably more successful because you just keep yourself busy. But here's the problem with trying to push thoughts and feelings away. For the next 10 seconds, I don't want you to think about a polar bear. Go. What is the first thing you thought of when I said don't think about a polar bear? Yeah, and that's what we do with our emotions and feelings all of the time. We tell ourselves, don't feel something, don't think about something. I imagine both of you are familiar, and not that, maybe one of you have encountered quicksand, I doubt it, but are you familiar with the concept of quicksand? Yeah, so if you get caught in quicksand, what's the last thing you should do? Like, what makes the quicksand sinking worse? Yeah, struggling, like the more movement. And our thoughts and emotions are like that. That the more we kind of engage with these thoughts, the more we tell ourselves not to think and feel a certain way, the more we become stuck in that tar or that quicksand. I imagine this has happened. I have been so caught up in my thoughts in my own head. I haven't been able to enjoy the present moment, whether that's spending time with my romantic partner, whether that's spending time with my kids, whether I'm doing work and I'm like typing up a clinical note and I'm so caught up in thought, I'm not paying attention to what's going on around me. Right? And this is the opposite of mindfulness, because all mindfulness says is that we are aware in the present moment, and by aware, in tune to our senses. That can be touch, taste, sight, sound. Let me give you an example of this. And understandably, a lot of this makes sense, but until I mention the feeling of the chair underneath you, you probably have forgotten about it, right? But now that I've reminded you of it, you've brought your awareness to it. So, and we don't need a note card or a sheet of paper. But what does this mean when we get caught up in emotions? And so I want you to just set whatever you have down and take your hand and hold it up like this in front of you, right? And on it, I want you to visualize something you worry about. Just the word, or it can be an image. And have you ever worried so much about it? I want you to bring your hand as close as you can, like right here. Right? When you're so worried about this, what else can you see going on around you? Not a whole lot else, right? And that's what happens with our anxiety, is that we become so cognitively fused with our own thoughts that it's like right here, we can't see what's going on around us. We can't think about anything else. You've probably walked around campus before so worried about something, you had no idea what was going on around you. So, and I already did this, not to think about a polar bear. And by the way, no one in the history of time has ever been able to do this challenge. Because by definition, it's impossible. The very mechanism I'm telling you not to use, for the problem, you have to use that mechanism. Like it's intrinsically a contradiction. But yet we do that all the time with our own emotions, right? Don't think this way, don't feel that way. And never telling ourselves, don't feel that way has ever worked. Don't think about that has ever worked. There's different things we can do. Distract ourselves. That works great, at least temporarily. Our minds are really good at distracting us. So what is mindfulness about? And it's really the second part, about being aware of what is happening in the present moment by moment basis. Again, not caught in your head, but aware with your senses. Right? This is in contrast with a state of attention that is focused elsewhere. So a non-mindful state is a state of mind that is focused on memories, the past, emotions, thoughts. And often we get tangled up with our own thoughts so for example, something someone will do is I'll judge my thought as being rational or irrational, like that thought doesn't make sense. And sometimes, it makes sense to do some of this. Is my plan rational or not? But sometimes by thinking, is my thought rational or irrational, we just get caught up in this loop where we can't stop thinking about it. Mindfulness is not positive thinking, not a relaxation technique, not going into trance, not trying to blank your mind. It is simply being aware of what is going on around you in the moment. Sometimes that can be very unpleasant. And there's formal practice, meditation, body scan, informal practice, awareness of body sensations, thoughts, sensory input, daily life, etc. Okay. So being versus doing. So often when we're not mindful, we're in a state of being. We're striving, avoidance and approach. So you kind of talked about the avoidance approach to a problem, right? You said when you're anxious, you would tell yourself not to think about it. And that's like telling yourself that's trying to deal with it. But that doesn't work because then you just keep thinking about it. Then you avoid it by keeping your mind busy. And so we get in this struggle where we push something away and then we try to, we push it away and then we try to like grapple with it. We often tell ourselves thoughts is real. I know people that'll say, I am angry, or I am, this person has annoyed me, and what they're doing is that they're labeling themselves. Like Charles, if you said you are angry, you're not angry, you're Charles. What you're having is a thought of anger. And so when you say you're angry, it's almost like doing this to yourself. I am angry, I am this. But if you can say I'm having a feeling of anger, it pushes it out a little more where it's not so overwhelming. Does that make sense? That the language we use can make thoughts or feelings more overwhelming. Living in the past and the future. People who are depressed are often caught up on things that happened before that sucked. Got dumped by a significant other, lost a job, did crappy on a test. Right? They're caught up in thoughts from the past. Over and over and over again, they go over these things. Things that are gone, that they have no control over anymore. People who are anxious tend to worry about the future. Right? How am I going to do on that test? Am I going to get that job? When I graduate, am I going to get a good job? Am I going to get that paper in on time? How are the people in my group going to do a good job on the over and over and over again? People who are worried often worry about things in the future. And so when we're not being mindful, right, this is the opposite of mindfulness, we're almost time travelers. But we're time travelers in a place where we can't do anything about. Worrying about things that happened in the past isn't helpful. Worrying about things in the future often, and I'm not talking about planning for the future or things like that, but where you're just caught up in thoughts about the future, means you are not in the present moment. And again, indirect experience. The opposite of being mindful is thinking, getting caught in your mind about events that are not actually going on. Like when you have memories about something crappy occurring, that event isn't occurring anymore. When you have, and often these thoughts will arouse feelings that are not direct experiences, are only occurring because you've indirectly brought them up. The bag of chips, the getting in the car, the tuning someone out, all those are automatic experiences, right? These are things when our mind has gone on autopilot. Mindfulness teaches us not to be on autopilot, to act intentionally, to focus our attention intentionally. So, can both of you eat chocolate? Absolutely. Yeah. You have to be careful. All right, so one is for now, one is for afterwards. Do not open it up. Do not eat it. I know that's the automatic thing to do. God knows if you handed me that chocolate, I'd already been gone before instructions to do contrary had been given. So as we begin this exercise, keep in mind that you may find you have a strong reaction or no reaction to this exercise. That's okay. Everyone's experience is different. Being open to what we're experiencing in the moment can help us understand what our internal experiences are, communicating to us on what their purpose is. Consider the example of a paper cut. The physical signals that you have an injury. As we try some mindfulness exercises today, keep in mind that the strong reactions are not wrong or problematic. They may be a sign that it is time to pay attention to your experience. Not having any reaction is okay too. It is just a sign that it will take some time to build these skills. Expect that you might feel uncomfortable. As simple as these exercises appear on the surface, they are very hard. If it ever feels like too much, feel free to drop the exercise. So, what I want you to do is hold the wrapped chocolate, but don't unwrap it yet. Just hold it in your hand. Now, while you're doing this, you're going to have other thoughts, right? You're going to think about my voice. You're going to think about what's going on. And when you have another thought other than the chocolate, I just want you to acknowledge you are having a thought or feeling, and then go back to like holding the chocolate. Place it in the palm of your hand and notice the shape of the chocolate. Feel the weight of it in your hand. Pretend like you have never seen a wrapped chocolate before and examine it closely. Touch the packaging and feel the texture. Pay attention to any sound the wrapper makes. Examine the wrapper, noticing the colors. Look at the different sides of the chocolate wrapper and notice any place that the light reflects off the package and any shadows. If your mind starts to wander and think about other things, that's okay. Notice the thought or feeling, and then bring your attention back to the chocolate. Now begin to slowly open the wrapper. Listen for the sounds of the wrapper tearing. Notice the movement of your hands, fingers, and arm muscles as you open the chocolate. You may hear other noises or people in the room. Notice the sounds and bring your attention back to the chocolate. Raise the chocolate to your nose and smell the chocolate. Slowly breathe in several times and focus on the different smells. Does smelling the chocolate trigger anything else in your body? Is your mouth watering? Are you having thoughts like, hurry up and let me eat the chocolate? Or what's taking so long? If so, notice them and bring your attention back to smelling the chocolate. Now slowly take a small bite of the chocolate, but do not chew or swallow it. Notice the feeling and taste of the chocolate in your mouth. How does it feel as it melts? Notice the taste and sensations of the chocolate on your tongue. Move the chocolate around in your mouth. Try to notice the moment where you feel like you want to swallow. Slowly swallow the chocolate, focusing on the sensations. Notice any lingering taste or sensations. You can finish the chocolate. But I just want to ask, did you notice anything you'd never noticed before in doing this? So you notice the unique smell of how a chocolate is. And this is a really simple and kind of silly exercise. But I do it because we go through life kind of not paying attention to what's going on around us. Like, how many times someone is sitting down to eat a meal and probably didn't taste most of it because they were talking or mentally somewhere else. And something as little as a chocolate, you can notice new things. And maybe you didn't notice anything new. But my guess is that you're able to enjoy that chocolate a little more towards the end than normally just shoveling it down your throat. And I say all this; these are all things I do too. I'm not special in this way. Did you get distracted a lot doing this? Like, did your mind wander much? Yeah, I'm here. Head nods. Yes, our mind is like a radio that plays in the background. It just chatter, 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 chatter. That is okay. In fact, if either of you had said, no, I didn't think about anything else, you would be a liar. Like, no one in the history of time, unless maybe a Buddhist monk who's been doing this for 40 years, can get through this without thinking about something else. And I probably almost guarantee that Buddhist monk is thinking about something else as well. Your mind is just excellent at distracting you. Just excellent at distracting you. And that's okay. Our purpose is not to judge your thoughts as rational or irrational or to get mad for not doing this right. No, it is just to acknowledge whatever thoughts and feelings you're having and then go back to what you were doing. So we're going to try a little bit more of this. This is a breathing exercise. And so let me set this up a little. You know, we've done chocolate, and we're going to do breathing in a moment. I'm focusing on physical sensation things. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't matter what you pick. Like, it's not chocolate that's the thing or breathing that's the thing. It's, again, mindfulness is about being aware of your physical reaction. And the reason this is important is because people who struggle with stress, anxiety, depression are almost always checked out of their physical body. Almost always checked out. I mean, we've all been so worried where we couldn't think about anything else, right? I mean, and this makes sense. Like if a family member you know and love is hurt in a car accident and you're rushing to the hospital, I don't expect you necessarily to be thinking about anything else about your relative. But, you know, if you're so worried about that paper due in 2 weeks that you're well ahead of, but you're so worried you can't enjoy the date you're on, or you can't enjoy the movie you're watching, or you can't enjoy the song you're listening to. I mean, that's kind of like one of the classic symptoms of anxiety, is not being able to stop your worry or your rumination when you want to. And so this next exercise is just to have you focus on your breath. And all it's going to do, it takes 7-8 minutes, and it's a recorded one, is just focus on your breathing. And I guarantee you what's going to happen is you're going to get distracted, right? You're going to think about, any number of things, whatever it is you think about. Your mind, and random things will come up that you haven't thought about in a while. While this is occurring, if a thought comes up, just acknowledge the thought you are feeling you are having, saying, I'm having feeling X, I'm having thought Y, whatever it is. Acknowledge it in a non-judgmental manner and go back to the breathing. So let's give this a try. It'll encourage you to lay down or close your eyes. I do generally encourage people to close their eyes because it's like one less sensory thing to be distracted by. But do whatever you need to do in your space to be comfortable, and I'll be over here. So.
Allow yourself to get comfortable. You can be seated or you can lie down for this meditation. Take a few deep breaths, inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly. Allow yourself to let go of any stress you've been feeling. Let go of any tension in your shoulders. Let go of any tension in your jaw. Allowing your breath to return to normal. Simply bring your awareness to what it feels like to breathe right now. Notice the physical sensations of breathing. wherever that physical sensation of breathing is the most vivid, place your awareness there. You might feel it most in the rise and fall of your abdomen. You might feel it most in your nostrils. Wherever that sensation is the clearest, simply place your focus right there. Experience the inhale. Experience the exhale. Experience the in-between. And each time that you notice that the momentum of your mind has drawn your awareness away from your breath, gently, non-judgmentally, place your attention back on your breath. You might find it helpful to say within your mind, inhale each time you inhale, and exhale each time you exhale. By silently saying these words, you draw your attention back to your breath. Your mind will wander. Simply notice when it does, and with compassion and love for yourself, accept that your mind has wandered, and bring your awareness back to the physical sensation of breathing. Observe each breath as though it's the first breath you've ever taken. This is an opportunity to pay attention. To pay attention to this present moment. Place your attention on your breath in this present moment. Simply notice and feel what it feels like to breathe in this present moment. And as the momentum of the mind draws your awareness away from your breath, kindly and gently bring your awareness back to your breath. yourself to explore this moment, to be curious about this moment, to allow your breath to open up the doorway to this moment. As you prepare to come out of this meditation, notice how you feel in your body. Take a moment to feel this feeling of presence. Take a moment to experience it, to notice what it feels like in your body to be present. Offer yourself a little gratitude for taking the time to be present. And carry this feeling of presence with you as you go out into your day. May you be present. May you be peaceful. May you be gentle on yourself today. Blessings.
So what was that like? Actually, I really appreciate, you said strange, and I really appreciate that answer because people often go good or relaxing. And those things may be true, but strange, I find that like much more informative. Well, how was it strange?
Feelings that no one noticed, like I
Yeah.
pay attention to throughout the day.
Yeah.
It's like one of the things my mind started to wonder about was like the only time I ever notice when I'm stop breathing, like when I hold my breath.
Yeah.
Wow, I actually need air.
Yeah, people report they'll start noticing when they notice things. Things like that. Like these little, like things you're so out of tune with your body you never noticed before. That's why I said this isn't a relaxation technique. Because many people find it relaxing, and often it does help people de-stress. But it can be not the opposite. Like it may not be anxiety provoking, but it can just stir up a lot of things you're unfamiliar with. And occasionally something unpleasant. And so I'm going to give you a handout. Did everyone grab? Did you grab one of these, Charles? Let me just take this with you. And yeah, this is just like more explanations. Like there's some really good TED Talks on mindfulness. There's some interesting like practices, like leaves on a stream. That's one of my favorite ones. There's some really, really, really cool stuff in here. And so, any questions or anything like that?
I guess I need to figure out how to word it though.
That's okay.
that mindfulness is something to set apart specific time practice.
So the question was, because I don't have the mic and I need to repeat it for audience playing at home, uh, is mindfulness something like you set specific time apart for, or is it something like you kind of incorporate throughout the day, or both? And that's an excellent question, because when I encourage clients during individual therapy to do this, initially, for this to be something you're comfortable with, you have to set specific time aside, because this is such an awkward, like this is a very unnatural thing. And our society just doesn't encourage mindfulness. It's always having you busy, always thinking. So, I mean, it's lovely if you can incorporate this into your day and automatically just start like walking around, being more mindful. I think most people would struggle with that. So my answer is, I think initially until you get quote unquote good, maybe that's not the right word, but get more practice in mindfulness. Like, yes, setting up once or twice a day, 5-10 minutes, doing or being or experiencing kind of some of the guided audios on here is probably going to be pretty helpful. And then once you get good at it, or again, that word good, but once you get more comfortable or more experienced with this, then I think you can just kind of walk around and be more mindful in general. In fact, that ability to walk around and just be more mindful in general is probably, if someone is struggling with anxiety or depression, where they're going to get the most help from. Because otherwise, if it's just something you do and you set time aside, like you're going to get relief in that 10 minutes twice a day. But then as soon as you're out of that state, like those things are likely going to come back pretty quickly. Now, that twice a day for 5 or 10 minutes can be wonderful for people who are deeply depressed or highly anxious, because it's at least some escape. But for them to experience more frequent improvement, it's really a skill that has to be cultivated over time. And let me say this varies from person to person. I've had people once or twice a day for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they kind of get a sense of being able to do that pretty regularly. Some people, a few months, once or twice a day. It varies from person to person. So to answer your question, ideally, once you become comfortable with it, I think it's something you can walk around and carry with you all the time, which makes it much, much more helpful. But initially, it's a skill that I think that has to be set down and practiced. And does my answer make sense? Yeah. Okay. Good question. I appreciate that, because that's literally something I have to go over with clients every time I do this.
There are times when it's more be mindful to not.
Are there times where this is not a good idea to do effectively? Yes. A couple of times come to mind. I always check with clients if they have a recent trauma that's pretty hot, because if they do mindfulness, like those things are going to bubble up to the surface. And if you're undergoing, I don't think we face many of these circumstances, but I can imagine in circumstances where you need to mentally escape. If you're undergoing something really unpleasurable, like torture, or someone's beating you up, or, something really, really sucky, I think there's a reason we engage in mental escape, because it's a useful tool. So if you are experiencing something so unpleasant that it is like going to crush you mentally or kind of ego state-wise, and you need to escape, I would encourage that. Honestly, I don't think there's that many I don't think this is something someone has to, most of us aren't going to have experiences like that very often. Yes? Is it a bad thing to always be in your head? And what I tell people is your mind is a wonderful place to visit, but you don't want to live there. And so it's not like, I necessarily don't feel comfortable giving it like a rating scale, but you just miss out on so much when you're always stuck in your head. From the taste of food, to the sound of someone's voice you love, to like feeling like in the moment with them. I'm not saying it's not okay to walk around, like if you drive from like here to Pica every day and you kind of blank out, that's okay, because that helps you get through like that boring ass drive. But like if there are things you really want to experience, people you really want to experience time with, moments you really want to enjoy, like it really sucks going to like somewhere fun with friends and being so distracted you can't enjoy it, right? Like, taking my kids to the zoo, if I'm so upset I can't like mentally be there with them, that sucks. Like, because I can't be there with my kids. Or if you're like going on a date or hanging out with friends and you can't be with your friends or date because you're so worried, that stinks. So it's not how much time you spend in your head, it's that you're able to get out of it when you want to. Like you can enjoy life in the moment. And so that will probably vary from person to person. I tend to be a pretty introverted, deep thinking guy. I get stuck in my head a lot. And sometimes that's okay, like if I'm in deep problem solving mode. But if I just want to be with my wife or kids or hanging out with friends or enjoying a movie, I need to be able to get out of there. Because that's, like it sucks if I'm worried about work all weekend or something. Like that blows. And so the ability to get out of your mind is the important thing. Does that make sense? Okay. You're going to be getting a double dose of this next week in Wendy's class. It'll be different, but you'll hear some common themes. So, yeah. But yeah, I really encourage the handout is great. There's lots of quick practices. And you can literally type Google, or not Google, well, you can Google mindfulness. But you can go to YouTube and type in mindfulness and anxiety or stress, and you'll literally get like the phone book worth of videos. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these videos. Various times, people like different voices, different links. Sometimes there's visualization. Sometimes, there are just dozens of these. So I encourage people to, there's a few examples on there that are cool, but play around and find things that are useful for you. So that's all I got. Thank you for coming. Hopefully if I had an audience. Did I have an audience? I have no idea. Probably not. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, crap. Write this down. If you have any questions for me, my email is my first initial, the letter J, and then my last name, Middleton, Middleton, at ksu.edu. J Middleton at ksu.edu. And get not my first name, just first initial. So if you have any questions, any problems, hit me up. I'm here all week. Tip your waitresses. Thank you.